call to order the City Franklin Technology Commission meeting for Wednesday, October 22nd. It is 6 p.m. and we will start out with our roll call.
Scott Mead, here. Greg Stroik,
Present.
Alderman Pecorelli,
Here.
Michael Dubleski, Laura Galusha is excused. James Rayberger,
Present.
Rajiv Sarana is not here. And Pelkey,
Here. Present.
Max McWilliams,
Present.
Sandberg is excused. I am here.
All right, let's stand and do the pledge. So we're going to I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There are no citizens in our audience, so we will move to item number 3, review of the last meeting minutes from April 23rd.
Actually, we got a new member.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you. We've met since April, haven't
We have not met since April. They actually have 2. But
That's insane.
Sam is not here.
we? All right. Yes. So Michael is our new member. You can repronounce your last name in a second. We usually go around and just say like how long we've been on the commission, maybe what our professional background is, just briefly. So we'll let you start.
Okay. Yeah, I've been on the commission for 10 minutes or.
Good start.
I moved to Franklin a little over in the spring of last year, and I'm an electrical engineer at Rockwell Automation for 22 years, working in functional safety and security. That's kind of like you work with CUV, which is like it's like UL, but in Germany. It's for machinery safety. You don't turn off the power, but you push a button, and that machine won't go down on you. Responsible for security along with and
Welcome.
Welcome.
thanks.
Jim, you want?
Yeah, so my name is James Rayberger. I've been on the commission, I don't know how long it's been, 5 years, 6 years, something like that. Time goes by fast. I'm a retired engineering executive from Zebra Technologies down in Lincolnshire, Illinois. Lived in Franklin the better part of 30 years. And in my past lives, I had a whole number of engineering roles. The most recent, I was the Senior Director of Product Security, much like what you were doing in that area. And I set up their global product security organization. So, with that, take it away.
Sure. I'm Greg Stroik. I'm the chair of the commission, I guess. Probably because I've been on the commission for 25 some years. So I've been around a while, seen many mayors and directors and aldermen come and go. But I'm retired as well recently, and I worked for many years with healthcare software, so developing healthcare software used hospitals for medical imaging, and then prior to the past 25 years doing that, worked with a variety of technology, mostly software related projects, and mostly in healthcare, although I did delve into some other industries as well. So that's me, and I've been in Franklin 1990.
I'm Max McWilliams. I've been on the commission for coming up on a year now. Other than that, outside of this, I work at Microsoft. I've been there for 11 years. Currently, I do security strategy for our partner organization. But previously, I did stuff in our data and AI group. And then before that, I was actually out in the field in our customer success unit. And I actually worked with state and local government customers. So actually the county and the city and the state of Wisconsin were my customers. So it was fun working with them along with other people. So, and I've lived in Franklin for coming up on 6 years now.
John Picarelli. I've been on the commission and an alderman for 15 months, something like that. And IT director. I worked in, from a corporate standpoint, in just about every area of IT at one point or another, programming, network, desktops, years. And sounds weird to say, but I've been in Franklin for 45 years.
Yeah.
I was young when I moved here.
You're born here.
Yeah, no, I wasn't born here, but yeah.
I'm Andy Pelkey. I've been on the commission for, 2 maybe very long. I am retired. I used to develop software for a variety of different industries, for using a variety of different tools and technology. But I did.
I'm Jim Metelsky. I'm the only one here that's an employee of the city of Franklin. I'm the director of IT. Been here for 9.75 years. So February it'll soon be 10 years for it. My main focus has been largely throughout my career on server and IT infrastructure for it, with some application as well. I've worked at Saputo in the past. It now actually has their corporate headquarters here in Franklin, now that I'm done. And then before that, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, U.S. Bank. I've done quite a bit with the IT in the financial industry and EFT prior to moving on to other just straight IT management aspects of it. One of the main areas that we're going to be seeing a main change within Franklin because of kind of a decision that I've announced to the Finance Commission because of the huge increase in costs in infrastructure, on-prem infrastructure, and not having a disaster recovery environment. We have to go to the cloud sooner rather than later. So a main goal that we're going to have will be either in 2029 or sooner. We will be looking at getting rid of our on-premise data center and moving all of our stuff as much as we possibly can over to the cloud. Some of it, I realize, is going to have to be applications that are core to the operations of the city have to be written as cloud-based applications. In some cases, it exists already, but it has not been widely integrated and implemented by the vendor at this point. So we don't want to be their trailblazer. It's going to be our core application for it. But with the rising cost of hardware, storage, networking, you're always going to need firewalls and security. You're always going to need, and even personnel costs at this point, that it just makes sense that it's clear that a lot of the companies that used to support us with the infrastructure has gotten rid of their small and medium-sized businesses, and they only care about the companies that have the largest data centers, and they want them as their company and their customers. They really don't care about the small, medium business anymore, so they're kind of letting them fend for themselves at this point, and it's clear the reason why they're doing this because so many people have integrated to the cloud already, and you really shouldn't have an on-premise any longer for it. So it's going to change our costs significantly because cloud has costs. That's OpEx, CapEx. We're always CapEx rich, OpEx poor on it. So it'll be moving a lot of expenses over into OpEx as annual cost for it. But the main advantage of doing so is you have the recoverability for it that you just don't have on-prem. I think the August flood kind of made that more than abundantly clear when you have a river overflowing on Drexel Avenue, and it's not that far away from City Hall, even though we're at the highest point in all of Milwaukee County, that, things could get worse if suddenly we find ourselves flooded. So we have to take that quite seriously.
So welcome, Michael. You'll just figure out what we're talking about as we go on. 'Cause a lot of these issues are carry-on issues. Some are new issues.
We do.
And yeah, we do the same thing. So with that, we will move to item 3, since there are still no citizens in the audience. And we have the meeting minutes in our packet as item number 3.
Yes, it's April.
Anybody wish to motion on these?
make a motion that we approve as written.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thanks. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Anyone opposed? Next, we also have some slides, which the director is going to go through, I'm sure. Item number 4, to review and recommend the TPX change order to add 5 new Cisco Meraki switches to the fiber optic WAN architecture.
I wasn't happy that we have to do this, and I'll try to make this meeting or move along for it. Unfortunately, we have to add equipment to a proposal that we did a significant amount of vetting for it, and found out this summer where we had multiple outages with power, that when the DPW goes down without power, we lose our primary connection, WISCnet, which is over at the Franklin School District building. We lose our main connection to our primary internet provider for all facilities. The ring was designed to be highly redundant and never to allow that type of situation to happen. And we could turn around and bring the attorneys and lawsuits and all that, but you're going to be spending a lot more money. Change order, turning around and trying to get that addressed at this point. So my recommendation, and it's pretty much the recommendation of the Director of Administration as well, is just move forward, get it fixed as soon as we possibly can, because we're going to be running so much, even though we have a primary and a secondary internet circuit spectrum at this point. We'll go through a little bit of the architecture on this, but this is a needed element. And my question is, what happens if it fails after spending the equipment? Well, that's when we may turn around and bring out the lawyers and say, do you really know what the heck you're doing? Understanding this is a very complicated issue to resolve on it, but it is absolutely essential to the city that we have reliable, fault-tolerant, highly redundant internet that also can be, because we have a lot of backhoes in the city going around here installing roads and everything else. Just look at Ryan Road right now as a case in point, that if we have a fiber cut, we have to be able to route around that fiber cut while still staying on our high-speed primary internet connection. Just as a kind of a recap, because we do have some new people here that weren't in place when we originally talked about this project through the multiple commissions. The City Hall fiber optic WAN was originally constructed and designed by MC&E. That was about 2021 when we kicked off the project, and we started doing installation work in 2020. And it was developed with a high fault tolerance in mind. MC&E constructed the fiber optic layout and where the underground cables would be positioned throughout the city, because we would be interconnecting all of our offices. A ring topology was selected that would allow multiple points of routing for all offices. Routing can be performed either counterclockwise or clockwise throughout the ring. The fiber ring would need to encounter multiple fiber cuts for routing on the primary ring to fail. MC&E created plans for the installation of the fiber optic strands and the assignment of the strands to individual offices. We have a 128, which is standard size, fiber optic cable, and then we have certain strands from that fiber optic cable terminating at individual offices. The original plan under the former Director of Administration, Peggy Steno, did not consider the implementation of SD-WAN for basically having a backup internet connection, securing the primary internet service provider WISCnet, so she did not have a contract to get a new service provider or obtaining new firewalls. In July 2023, several vendor proposals were evaluated by this commission, and TPX was selected as the primary firewall and WAN routing provider project. TPX would be responsible for determining the firewalls, routing protocols, and SD-WAN configuration, as this was beyond the technical skill of the local IT staff. All configuration and maintenance of the Fortinet firewalls, we used to have Palo Alto, would be the responsibility of TPX. IT would no longer directly perform firewall changes. Existing Spectrum coax lines at DPW, Fire Station 1, and Fire Station 2, no, Fire Station 1 is not on this list, would be used as a Spectrum backup connection in case the WISCnet was unavailable. New Spectrum Enterprise Fiber backup lines will run at City Hall, PD, and the water utility for higher reliability and more bandwidth in coax. During the installation, sites were tested for failover between the primary WISCnet and the Spectrum backup. SD-WAN was confirmed to be functional, and BGP is being used on the internal WAN between sites. Will be the green ring when you'll see that in a moment, and also on the internet red ring between sites going out to WISCnet. This is kind of small, so I have a bigger map, but it's not that much bigger at it. Basically, red, hot, that's where the internet line basically rings. So internet connection and our traffic are going between the sites. They're on different fibers right now and different IP VLAN assignments on it, and it's also segmented out via BGP for it. So down at the bottom here is ECC. This is where we pick up WISCnet from the WISCnet routers that are at the ECC building. Over here on the left is the police department. They have two firewalls. Same thing with City Hall and water. So we have two firewalls and two Meraki switches interconnect the firewalls with that are connected to the switches. So if we lose a firewall, that site actually stays up. So if it's a site that has a lot of people, we have two firewalls that also allows you to implement changes and software updates to the firewall without bringing the site down. City Hall is next as we go around the ring. We then have Fire Station 1. We do have the public library. They get their internet through the Milwaukee County Library System. They're just connected still on the old OC1 back to City Hall right now, and they just use that connection to get over for BSNA. So they're not, the library is not on the ring. We have Fire Station 1, Fire Station 3, water utility, Fire Station 2, water utility is fault tolerant, and then DPW, and then we have the ECC. The design of that ring kind of goes along the lines of where the fiber is laid out and where the strands are paired off for each and every single one of those sites. So this is a logical topology for it. Because it's a ring, if you have a fiber cut over here, you can go either this way around the ring, whichever is shortest, to the ECC, or you can go the other way around the ring over to the ECC. If you have a fiber cut here and a fiber cut here, all right, now Fire Station 3 doesn't have any connectivity to either the ECC or the other WAN, so then it goes on its local spectrum, either coax or fiber connection for backup internet routing. Yes.
What's ECC?
Education Community Center.
Okay.
What it stands for. DPW outages this summer. We had a couple of them, and this is when we discovered we had an architecture problem. So during the summer of 2025, was discovered that if the DPW was offline without power, routing to the primary link to ECC would suddenly fail. All offices would move over to SD-WAN Spectrum for a backup connection. In June, we had an extended power outage due to construction over, actually on Forest Hills Avenue, where the company was working on was working on the road, and they accidentally hit the overhead lines, then took down the power grid, and it took a while for the DPW to get power back up. In August, we had two outages at the DPW due to the installation of a new transformer. The original unit that they put in failed, and then it had to be replaced. Then 2 days later, after we had the transformer replacement, that's when we had the flood. the nice thing is we stayed up and running. We had no power outages due to the flood, but we were a little worried that we would have had a major flooding event going around, and if we had to go into some form of a DR and bring up the Emergency Operations Center with FEMA, if it was a significant flooding event, what would happen if DPW lost power during the flood, and now all of our offices are on backup connections instead of primary? That would have been a major problem, because that also would have been brought down the VPN because you couldn't get to City Hall. DPW also recently had a site-level UPS installed, which required the site to go into portable gasoline generators until the cutover was complete. This wasn't an exactly a smooth installation, where we also had a day afterwards where they lost power and the UPS failed. Excuse me, the power generator failed. This is the current architecture for the environment. Going down to the bottom button. City Hall, we have 2 Fortinet firewalls and we have 2 Meraki switches. Why do you need the switches down there? Basically for SD-WAN, because you have to turn around and connect the SD-WAN connection for both the incoming internet and the incoming connection for Spectrum over to an external device, where you can have 2 connections going for the primary back to this firewall and then this firewall as well. So this is needed for failover between the 2 firewalls. So you can lose a firewall, but you still have access to the primary and the backup internet connections for it. Yet the connections for the WAN actually connect into the City Hall coordinates themselves, so that the traffic is actually filtered for it. We have 2 again over at the 2 firewalls and 2 switches over at the PD. Then at the ECC, we have 2 firewalls and 2 switches, and then we have our connection over to WISCnet interconnecting over to the 2 switches. Then over at the remote sites, they just have a smaller Fortinet firewall at each site. It's still 1 gigabit connection, but it's got a lot less ports on it. So you have 1 for Fire Station 1, Fire Station 2, Fire Station 3, DPW, and then sewer and water. And then there's the backup connection over to Spectrum that's coax for each one of those sites. The proposed change is turn around and put additional switch at each and every single one of these sites, and then turn around and then allow the rings to turn around. And so here's the switches, here's the firewalls. So the switches are now going to be connecting all of the rings around. They're all going to be Cisco Meraki, and then the firewalls are going to be peeled off around from the actual switches.
I got a question.
Why?
Given all the construction on Ryan Road, how much of the fiber optic in this architecture is under that road?
All of it.
All of it.
Well, yeah, all of the fiber, the entire 128 strand, goes all the way around. We just peel it off when we actually go into the actual office itself.
Okay.
As you move around the ring, around all the offices for fiber optic, we have our main, I would have to show you the actual diagram for how the fiber is actually laid out. But the ring actually does go underneath the road and uses the conduit that's actually used by the Waukesha Water Utility to put it in there. And some of it's also, we pick it up again from the Franklin School District. So we share the conduit. We share part of our conduit, and then we use the conduit under a mutual agreement between those 2 agencies. But there is a good stretch of fiber that goes underneath Ryan Road. So it basically comes from, if you want to go down Loomis, it goes down Loomis, goes down, makes a little leg over to the DPW, then continues on, goes down into the industrial park, picks up the water and Fire Station 2, comes back up, goes up 51st Street using the conduit for the school district, then it goes across Drexel, and then we also have a leg going down Forest Hill Avenue to turn around and connect us over to. So it actually goes down down Loomis to Forest Hill Avenue, goes down Forest Hill Avenue, then goes down to 76th Street, goes down to 76th Street till it hits Ryan. That's the basic layout of where it goes around the city.
I was just curious from a physical perspective,
Yep.
how much of it was under the road.
And that's also important why we have the location request, because we've done major road construction on Drexel, we're doing major road construction on 76. We're going to be doing major road construction on Loomis and major road construction on Ryan. So a lot of the streets that we turn around and have our fiber is where they're doing major construction.
So how does the introduction of these switches eliminate the power outage causing a
We'll
failure?
get there. Future slide. All right, so the problems of the current architecture is it's tricky getting Ethernet to work in a ring, as the protocol was intended really to be used for point-to-point networks. That there's other protocols to use if you really want to stay in a ring. Everyone still remembers token ring or FDDI or ATM off of it. That works better than a ring than Ethernet. Ethernet uses spanning tree in order to prevent point-to-point communications from broadcasting and then having endless loops going around the rings. Right now, there are multiple versions of spanning tree. Some of them are vendor proprietary, so anything that you're dealing with Cisco's version of a spanning tree, they do not have that open, licensed for everybody. That's used for Cisco and Cisco-only products for it. So Fortinet is using right now currently RSTP, and that's being used right now because most of the ring is being connected over to the Fortinet firewalls right now. And that is then also being used for the uplink connections over to the WISCnet router, which is also a Cisco router. This is required for the integration of the Meraki switches over at the routing is only being performed clockwise around the ring through the DPW. There's a spanning tree block right now on the port at the PD between the Fortinets and the ECC. So if we look at this diagram, you can see on this one right now, there's a block. That block right now is being caused by a spanning tree. So if I'm the police department and I want to get to the ECC, I can't go this way. I have to go this way around the ring, which means I'm going to the DPW to get to the ECC. I'm supposed to be able to go this way, and I'm supposed to be able to go counterclockwise at the same time. But because spanning tree has a port block, and it took them a while to figure it out that's actually being blocked right now, they can't get around that because the Ciscos are talking one form of spanning tree, and the Fortinets are talking open standard RST at this point.
So those switches shown on the existing, those are different?
The firewalls are Fortinet, and the switches are Cisco Meraki. Right now, in our current environment, we do not have, because we only are using it where we have HA. So in our remote offices where we only have one firewall, we do not have two firewalls. We are currently only using the Cisco Meraki switches. Exactly. We're only using the firewalls. In the areas where we actually have fault tolerance, where we have two firewalls, that's where we're using the Cisco Meraki switches. So that creates a situation with the port block where the DPW goes offline. You can only route one direction at this point because of the port blocking that you're having with firewall. So we did try to do initial change before coming up with a hardware solution and figuring out that where the actual block is. We did turn around and we did try to move the WISCnet routers from the Cisco Meraki switches and then do a direct uplink to the Fortinet firewalls. RSTP was required on the uplink ports for the WISCnet router for redundancy, but only one uplink port could be used only at one time because it could only support active-passive, that configuration. It could not use link aggregation, which you would then have an active-active link on it. So using link aggregation, we've got an active-active uplink port, but it didn't make any difference. Why? Because the problem wasn't at the ECC with the uplink port. The problem was over at the police department with spanning tree. And although active passive with the uplinks is interesting, the actual problem is between the ECC and the PD with the block spanning tree ports. RSTP is not granular enough to make enough changes on a custom site-by-site basis, because you're going to have to create rules on a site-by-site basis on what your root port and what your bridge port is actually going to be, and then accommodate it also if you're going to be on the primary link or the spanning or on the backup link. So spanning tree is going to have to be really granularly configured for each site. Their solution is to put a 24-port Cisco Meraki switch. It has to be installed in each of the 5 offices that do not have HA. Spanning tree will only use Cisco protocols and will only be performed on the Meraki switches. While spanning tree will be using the same equipment and platform that is using a vendor-specific protocol. Spanning tree maps have to be carefully defined between each office. Root and designated bridges have to be defined with a great deal of thought given to how the network will converge if a facility goes offline. And both STP and the primary connect and SD-WAN failures have to be tested. So we have to not only test for SD-WAN, we also have to test for an entire facility going down. So we take an office offline and then see how the network reconverges or doesn't reconverge. And we have to use a 24-port switch instead of an 8-port switch because they need to have 4 SFP fiber ports on each switch in order to accommodate the 8 fiber strands for full connectivity. The costs, the 5 new Meraki switches have to be purchased for the 5 remote offices. Hardware cost is a fixed cost of $21,391.40. It's also going to increase our monthly support licenses by maintenance support licensing, because Meraki, everything is licensed on a Meraki. That's a little expensive, and then there's support also for the additional switch, and that's going to go up $428.95 a month. I did get it confirmed that the Meraki transceivers, the GBICs, are pricey. They're really pricey. That they did actually include that in their quotation as well. That they aren't going to give us just the firewall and forget the GBICs. That's what happened when we did the original proposal. How are we going to fund it? It's going to come entirely out of the IT budget. I canceled the HBS contract for $18,000. That's the director's notes. With a $1,677 exit fee, so there's $17,909 of unused money right now that we can make available for the capital, and then the rest is going to have to come out of the IT data processing, which is my project budgets, for $3,462. That will require Common Council budget amendment on it, and then the $5,147, that $450 plus a month increase. We already submitted our 2026 budget, so we're just going to have to figure out how we're going to turn around and meet that unexpected expense in the 2026 budget. Other problems that we discovered that are not hardware related, that are configuration related, that the Technology Commission should know about. This is sitting right now in Milwaukee County waiting for approval on the change control. Right now, CAD2CAD TELUS, which is our municipal aid, so if we need to call in more fire trucks or ambulances because all of them are out and we need to have Oak Creek or Greenfield or somebody send in an ambulance to help us out, that mutual aid system, that's Milwaukee County TELUS, that doesn't work right now when we're on the Spectrum backup. When the DPW was down, suddenly CAD2CAD went down. The reason for that is we only have one VPN tunnel going over to One Neck over in Madison, where this is being hosted right now. We need to get a second VPN tunnel and then change the routing so it's active passive routing on their behalf. That needs to be set up and approved by Milwaukee County. Amazing enough, no one in Milwaukee County is actually doing a primary and a backup. So I'll pick on Greenfield. If Greenfield suddenly loses their connection, their primary internet connection, and goes down, and they can't communicate over their primary internet connection to Milwaukee County TELUS, then Greenfield is down, and then they have to use the radio, turn around and do mutual aid requests. They can always use radio. That hasn't gone away. Eventually, the county is going to want to get rid of the radio system. But no one's using that. If the county approves it, we'll be trailblazing here on that configuration. Also, when we're on Spectrum, the Madison Department of Justice portal goes down. We get that through the Greenfield VPN. Same thing. We have to create a backup to the VPN tunnel over at Greenfield, set up active passive routing on that, and then we have to make sure also that our route over to the DOJ, because it goes from Greenfield over to Madison to get over to the DOJ system so they can do warrant lookups and arrest lookups and license plates. All that is gone through the DOJ. They lose that connection when right now we're on Spectrum, so we have to have the dual VPN connections over there as well. NetMotion, we discovered when we're on Spectrum, that goes down. That allows the squad cars to turn around and be able to get over to ProPhoenix. That's for their record management system, and also for their computer-aided dispatch system, which they're using also for WDA while they're there. According to the vendor, we need to spin up a second NetMotion server dedicated specifically for the Spectrum line, and then each of the VPN clients for NetMotion has to be reconfigured. So they then select, are you going to be on a primary network connection or your backup network connection? So they would have to manually select that if the link ever went down. Fire Station 1 does not have a Spectrum backup connection for it. This was due to the site being on old C1 campus fiber, where all the other remote sites, they had to have coax in order to turn around and gain connectivity back to City Hall. This site in the old water tower would also connect and go directly over to City Hall. Their coax they had was used for television, and it was the union that provided the television for them, and they were just using it for HBO and standard cable, etc. And we had to have the union cancel their contract to do that in order for us to turn around and take over Spectrum billing for that particular office. They would not install a 2-drop, stupid regulations. They would not install a drop for television and another drop for internet. You had to get rid of the drop for television before they would add a drop for internet, because they only wanted one modem out there instead of 2. We've now got that fixed. That was installed on Monday. Then also, this will be remediated with Office 365. While on the Spectrum routing, we would also lose Mimecast. That turned out to be a certificate error, DNS resolution for it. Once we turn around and go to the Office 365 cloud, Microsoft then holds all of the certificates on it, and we don't have to worry about that. Motion to recommend. Because this will need to turn around and have equipment ordered for it, we're going to need to have this approved by the Technology Commission, and then it'll be a budget amendment, and then approved by the Common Council.
Any discussion? Question?
I've got a question. How does this new architecture support the longer-term cloud software as a service?
Everything is going to be running on this. So that fiber optic ring, even if we had, all of our stuff will be up in the cloud. So this is our main internet connection, and how we get internet will be through WISCnet, which is government only. So you have to be either a government or an education or a library in order to be on WISCnet. They do not do any commercial customers whatsoever. So it's heavily used. It's very, very, very reliable because it's heavily used by a lot of other agencies, including the state at this point. So we can go all the way up to 10 gig. Would have to put in 10 gig firewalls, ching, to do that. Right now they're 1 gig firewalls because those are cheaper. But we do have with WISCnet a port where we can go all the way up to 10 gig fiber. Our fiber optic ring can easily support 10 gig at this point. So all of our connectivity to the data center, whether we put our data center in Microsoft's cloud or we go with a third party and decide to move our data center to a hosted service, our data center is going to exist somewhere off-site. And the ring is how you get to the data center, whether it be in the public cloud or a government cloud, or be it in a commercial cloud if you want to do a hosting service. that everything has to be in the cloud. That's why we have it as a ring. That's why we have our major sites with redundant firewalls and redundant equipment. And that's why you're supposed to be able to route both ways around the ring.
So the new switches are they're 2 gig.
They're going to do
What I'm saying is that
they're going to do link aggregation on it. So right now, because you're connecting the Fortinet firewalls do not do link aggregation. Cisco Meraki switches do link aggregation. So you can take 2 of the ports. One will be downstream if you want to go clockwise. The other one will be upstream if you go counterclockwise. So we right now have 2 ports that are designed where one port goes to just the red ring, one goes to the green ring. They'll do link aggregation, put it together, and then basically separation between the rings between red and green is actually going to be done in software through is being done today. But we also go the additional thing of segmenting it as well. So we could also turn around and we don't need to do link aggregation. Keep it the same, but it may simplify things because instead of having 4 ports turning around and doing spanning tree on, you basically only have 2 ports turning around and
When do you think that the 1 gig you're getting with the is going to be considered?
That's a hard decision.
Yeah, right.
It could be coming. I may find out because we just turned around and went live with the camera servers over at the police department, and we're now turning around and we're going to be putting all video surveillance footage now up in there. That we've done very well thus far with 1 gig, primary for internet connectivity. But we could easily. I can't predict it because I would have to understand what it would be like of what our data pattern would be of moving all data over to the cloud. And how much of that is actually going to need to have constant connectivity.
Do we have any other municipalities that are somewhat larger than us? Say to them, okay, what do you
We have other municipalities like Hales Corners that does everything in the cloud. They don't do anything in on-prem. But yet our data usage patterns could be significantly different because you're subscribed to certain services where other people are not. For example, Greenfield is doing their camera stuff with WatchGuard and such still on-prem. They aren't doing cameras in the cloud. So their police department is going to have a dramatically different footprint on what their data usage patterns is going to be compared to what we have over here.
Do we have anybody
But it means we have to keep a very close eye on our bandwidth utilization as well.
Yeah, do we have anybody that's further down the road than we are that can say, boy, we hit this, we really had to switch, that the 1 gig ran out of gas?
A lot of them actually have put in equipment. They don't have the number of offices, but I do know like Greenfield is already on 10 gig firewalls. Spent a fortune on it. Same thing with Oak Creek. That they are on 10 gig for it. The nice thing is they're also all on Fortinet at this point. So that seems to be the big thing, costs. But most of the places are on Fortinet at this given point in time. But a lot of it would be monitoring our data usage patterns for it. We can estimate very, very roughly, but it still would be a very rough estimate.
I think your question's very germane, though, and it's probably sooner rather than later. Just knowing the way technology evolves and
Every time you buy a computer, you're like, 2
Yeah.
terabytes of space,
right.
it'll last forever.
Okay,
And
it's,
then,
640
three years later, you're like, wow, you said all I get a bigger one next time.
Well, what's the life cycle of the device with that? Because if it's like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years,
We are on a 5-year contract right now with PPX for it, so we can always request additional hardware and upgrade the hardware to a different platform with it. But that was signed in 2023 for it. So they are running our maintenance and running our WAN and running TCP and such from 2023 for 5 years. 2028 is when we would be looking at either renewing that or going with somebody else, maybe doing a refresh cycle on it, even though we can do a refresh cycle earlier than that. Where I think the most important thing is the sites, like the police department, should be going the closest path to the ECC. The city hall should not be going all the way around here, because these do support 1 gig connections. But then you also have to realize you have a CPU inside the processor as well, inside the firewall as well. And your throughput not always is the speed of the interface port. It also is what is the compute cycles for that particular firewall. Well, the ones that we have at the police department and city hall is a much beefier firewall. It's the 200 series than what we actually have with the 100 series over at the 5 remote offices for it. So what has to happen is, for example, Fire Station 3, it can go either left or it can go right. It doesn't make a difference where it goes. But if I'm over here at Fire Station 2, yeah, I want to go the least amount of hops to get to the ECC, where I'm routing either clockwise or counterclockwise. City Hall should be going through the PD, which has beefier firewalls, and then from the PD, it's only 1 hop over to the ECC. The PD shouldn't be going all the way over through all these different offices to get over to the ECC. That's bad architecture at this point. That's the main reason why it needs to get fixed, and fixed fairly quickly on this. So we do the closest hop routing for it instead of taking the scenic route to get the two over to the ECC.
And then if you did reach that point where cameras or whatever, city
We're
hall
already at that
or
point.
from the PD, are saturating the network either through upload or download retrievals. Could you just upgrade those
Yes.
segments 10 gig
Yes.
and put in routing rules?
So I would have to update the firewalls at the ECC. That's the main uplink.
Oh yeah.
That's where you're going to find the saturation
The
point
bottleneck,
first. That's the one where I watch like a hawk, because everything comes through
Okay.
the ECC. So I look at maybe updating the firewalls and switches at the ECC and then the police department and put those up to 10 gig. So you don't have to be uniform upgrades for every single office.
All right,
You
that's
can't do it incrementally.
Yeah, that's obviously those are going to be big hitters. Any other questions or comments?
This testing you mentioned, is that something TPX is doing as part of the contract, or is that something
Yes.
you have to do?
They have to do it because they're the ones that know how to use BGP. I don't know anything about BGP, nor do I want to learn.
Okay, so they like insert faults in the.
They
Different
literally
switches
using
or-
BGP can take an office offline. If we wanted to, I could go pull the plug to the thing. Or you can just turn off the UPS. So we found out the DBW, that works really well too.
Oh, that just tests the high availability and the
Yes.
ring. It doesn't test the switch over to the.
Well, we
Backup?
tested with SD-WAN. We tested to make sure that we could seamlessly go either on SD-WAN. We could easily go to the primary internet provider or the backup internet provider, that we could switch back and forth, and they were able to get to internet out at that particular site. We didn't test did every single application known to man in that site actually worked on Spectrum. That's where we had the configuration problems with it. But we tested SD-WAN when we brought the site up. What we did not test was taking an entire office completely and totally down. And that's where we discovered the fault.
Now we're going to go do that after this. We'll pull each one down and see what happens.
Well, we did go all the way from basically July of 2023 all the way till June of 2025 without having a major problem. Where we found out it through the School of Hard Knocks, but we found out we had an architecture problem. Then it's like, all right, now we have to test. We have to test both SD-WAN. We have to test also to make sure that we are working both clockwise and counterclockwise. And if we lose an office, it does not bring down the other offices, and we have to make sure that our core operational applications are working when it's actually in a backup environment.
I'll tell you how many times I've written a program and then written like a line of code and like, oh, that's going to work. You know, it's just one.
It's always testing for the
It's
exception.
always the thing you don't test that fails. always.
So true. So true.
Is this like the bare bones of what we need? Like if you what would you want with more money? Like, why wouldn't one of the other fire departments, like, why did high availability get chosen at these sites, and
Because that's
why
where
does
we're
the
gonna
fire
go to
department not
reviews.
need it?
For example, Fire Station 3 has 3 people. Fire Station 2 has 2 people. DPW has 8 people, but most of them aren't working on a computer during. They're driving around in dump trucks and snow plows and mowing the lawn. So, and same thing with water utility. You have 10 people out there, but only 2 people are really in the office. 10 show up when it's lunchtime or when it's time to check out, but they aren't actively using the computer all the time.
So I'm just trying to, like, the fire department can still do their job if one of these fails.
Correct.
Like that, that's not trying to get a
Correct.
fight.
And then, honest truth, Fire Station 2, Fire Station 3, they're on the road.
Mhm.
If they're in station, they're not working on the computer the majority of the time. Now, Kathy is out at Fire Station 2 right now because of the mold problem in Fire Station 1. But for the most part, they don't have a lot of people pounding on the computers constantly at the fire station. They may come back and then do maybe 2 hours worth of work, and then they're off on calls, and then the rest of the night they're down. They're watching television and everything else.
So their critical systems don't really rely on.
They have, well, we want to make sure they're fault tolerant. But why do they not have 2 firewalls and two switches at each of the 5 remote offices? They can be down offline for a period of time and still run operation.
Yeah.
Is the answer. We don't want them down forever without WAN connectivity for it, but they can stumble along. For example, we had, I think this was like 2 years ago, we had a major windstorm in the summer that took power down for the entire Milwaukee County area for a long period of time, and the DPW was literally down without power for 2 years. And they were able to struggle along. Eventually had to do some stuff over at the water utility that did have power, but they were able to hamstring along and do stuff on paper and then record stuff on paper, and when the WAN came up, then they just turn around and recorded it. So there is more tolerance for outage in the 5 offices than there is at the main one. That's why we have the 2 firewalls, fiber connections, and the additional switches at ECC, water utility, fire station, or police department, and city hall. Good question.
I motion that we recommend that purchase things as Jim explained to us.
Okay, we have a motion for what's on the screen here. We have a second.
Second.
Alderman, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Just a note for the recording that Max has left the meeting. All right. Item number 5, technical issues review.
Okay, I got 4 pages. It's been a while since we've been here. Potential department name change. In order to more accurately reflect the current responsibilities and scope of vendor engagements, IT management is seriously contemplating a change to the department name. The IT department is responsible for the complete support and maintenance of all voice over IP telephony and phone services, City Hall door access control systems, and video conferencing in the 3 facilities. Furthermore, the director of IT has been designated as the server and information officer within the CGIS team, and he's a critical member of the team that is accountable for all police department security audits and concerns. The department name Information Services is legacy and dates back to the time when IT was known as Data Processing Department. I am contemplating the possibility of renaming the department Technology and Security Management, TSM. This would be explicitly establish a security department within the organizational chart within Franklin that is in charge of all security responsibilities throughout the city. The department's ongoing obligations, which includes the resolution of an increasing number of security and privacy issues at all levels of IT, are more accurately represented by the name change. The name also signifies the manner in which security is administered, especially non-conventional devices that are not traditional computers or laptops. Additionally, the department's job descriptions ought to be revised to reflect the daily and cyclical security tasks that are currently being executed. It may also be worthwhile to contemplate renaming the Technology Commission to be in alignment with the naming change, Technology and Security Commission.
I thought you were going to say Department of War.
I was thinking,
Thank
I was
goodness.
thinking the exact same thing. This is the Department of War thing.
Something to chew on.
We'd be the War Commission.
Yes.
Johnson Controls Door Access Control Pro. Anyone
Done?
want to talk about that at all? No? Okay.
Door
the
access.
Velcro thing you were talking about?
Velcro?
Yes, and now comes the Velcro.
Okay.
Implementation of the City Hall Door Access Control System has encountered several major implementation issues, whereby the project being transferred from the Department of Administration back to IT. It started as a physical security project, which included video surveillance, was in IT, was then taken out of IT, given to the Department of Administration, put into a general grant that would be upgrading the lights, upgrading all the doors, and because a lot of this, when you're putting a door access control system, quite often you have to change the door out. You also have to change the door jamb out, and in the requirements by the state of Wisconsin, anything that you do to this building physically, you touch it, has to go through a very, very rigorous procurement process where you have to put it out to bid. And you have to define all of your requirements of what you need to do with your construction change to the building. And then you have to turn around and put that out on a board and competitively bid that out. And it has to be a bid process that is approved by the state. So instead of IT having to turn around and figure out how to do that whole bidding process, and let alone playing Bob Vila and figuring out how doors work, we instead gave it to Johnson Controls, which kind of made sense. Because they had to do it anyways through the bid process, and they had a whole system that worked within the state's regulations on how to do bid processes for physical changes. They also added a suite over for the Department of Administration, and they also changed out the storage facility and put in some additional bathrooms, another meeting room for the health department, and then also a medical examination room. There's a lot of construction involved in that, and they also are putting in a new air conditioning and heating system for the library as well. So that was then rolled into that project, given to Johnson Controls for it. They've done the cabling, they've done the door work, they have one door still to fix at this point. Build up the virtual machine that turns around and runs Secure, which is where you're supposed to be able to turn around and talk to all the controllers that contact the badge readers. And then you're also supposed to add cards and maintain cards. So this is where I go to add a user and then say what doors does this particular badge have the rights to turn around and open. So this server that they built has problems. So the Johnson Control System has multiple security problems. Virtual server that runs the door access control system has a local installation of SQL Express instead of using the centralized SQL server that has managed backups. Additionally, services are being launched under a vendor user account instead of a dedicated service account, which now with our new domain is supposed to turn around and change every 90 days and require a YubiKey. That's going to be kind of hard to run a service with. The vendor has also implemented an auto login to the Secure application, which is a violation of security policy. Johnson Controls have been informed of the security concerns associated with their card access door control system. A comprehensive discussion is scheduled for November 7th. The IT department is also suggesting that the system be integrated with either Active Directory or Entra ID. Right now, it's a separate database, so you have to put all the users in from scratch, and you have to put in all the cards in from scratch, and it's like, why can't this use Active Directory? This integration should simplify the administration of user accounts and access responsibilities. At present, no user has been assigned a door access control card. Additionally, there are significant scheduling challenges to resolve after-hour meetings, as well as the necessity of keeping doors open for the duration of a meeting. The scheduling and securing of the doors after hours is challenging due to the frequency and variability of after-hours meetings. In other words, when a meeting is going on, the doors have to be open. So if you're going till 3 o'clock in the morning, even if you're in a closed session, the doors have to be open, and you cannot take the door straps off the door until after the meeting is done. So because we have meetings and commissions going on all over the place, all over the time, we have to figure out some way of how we close the doors, whether it be a button or something, that will then lock all doors once the meeting is actually done and over. That was never put into consideration when they were designing.
Have they done other city halls?
I honestly question that.
You and I are on the same page.
I honestly think they got the people off the boat to this
This
project.
is a recent
Yes.
project?
Yes.
That company's been doing this for years and
I
years
know.
and years.
And I used the Johnson Control Systems over at the Journal, and it was never this disaster. Which means they're going to have a very large amount of explaining to do from the 7th. Because I was the one who originally wrote the statement of work for that project that was based upon a police department study. And they haven't even brought the police department into the fold on this because dispatch is supposed to have full visibility of the door access control system and is going to be able to turn around and shunt or allow access to any door in the entire building. If a person comes in here with a gun, they should be able, the police dispatch should be able to lock any door, prevent the infiltrator from going from floor to floor, area to area. As we start putting in more and more door badges and locking more and more doors, you want to be able to have the police be able to lock a door and open a door at any given period of time. And they completely neglected that section of the statement of work.
You could ask on November 7th, tell me which other communities you've done this on the way we wanted to do it, right? So then you'll be able to figure
They
out
will
whether or
fix
not,
this Meshuggah.
well, whether
They
figure out
will
whether this is
fix
the
it
first
and
time
get it
thing or
working
not.
at this point. So it's the person who's setting up all the user IDs in my department, the security department, that is issuing and provisioning all the new users. We're going to have to be provisioning the security badges. So for a while, it was the director of administration that was going to be provisioning the security badges. Now that's moving back to the IT department as part of this change.
This system is also responsible for physical access to this hardware we just talked about?
No, this is just the door system.
Okay, so access to this is different.
Yeah, this is the door. You'll see all these badge readers on the door. They blink like a Christmas tree, red and green. Right now, just on, off, on, off, on, off, and that tells me it's offline.
I think he's asking, is there a badge reader on the server room?
Yes, well, it's a virtual machine. Eventually, the badge reader system, we could also put it on a PC. But
No,
when we
not
go to
the-
the cloud,
I'm
eventually
talking
that
about-
VM will be.
I'm talking about this rest of your IT infrastructure. How is physical access?
Here.
Yeah.
Oh, this badge system only does City Hall. All the other facilities, lock and key. With the exception of the police department. Police department also has a badge reader. So that has a Lionel L3 badge reader system that was implemented back in 2000 when they turned around and built the police department. So they have door access control system. City Hall has a door access control system that doesn't work. Everywhere else is physical access key. Or they have a door that has a combination lock on. Is physical security a priority of the city? No. That's why when we got the money for the project, the physical security project, including video surveillance, that was put in when we were doing reconstruction of City Hall, when we put a new roof on and we put in the new vestibule in there, and they put in some. They decided to take a chunk of that money for City Hall improvements and then put it into physical security, realizing that's going to need to be continued, and we're going to need additional monies in the future, additional capital to address additional physical security concerns in the city, because they have not kept up with physical security concerns. There's not a single ballard anywhere around the city.
So Johnson Controls ran the RFP process, you said?
For all of the funding that was done under, and they also did a grant for it as well. So when they put it out to bid, they were the ones that actually put the RFP together for it.
So who was the ones who selected this door management or security
It
system?
was it was proposed by the
Like,
I would say
like knowing that
they got
it
the
was running on
proposals, and I
CERT,
believe it
Siegel
was.
Express, and
I'm not going to say it on a stack of Bibles. I believe it was the director of administration. It was put under the engineering department system. They got multiple bids, and think it was the department or the Common Council that actually turned around and approved that project and the grant. I don't think it was evaluated by another committee.
Was it evaluated by you?
They were taking IT and putting out of it, and it's like, here's my statement of work, and I'm handing this over to you because you're now taking my funding away for it. So I have now a project that I have no work. Here's my statement of work that I had for when I have charged the project, and you now have to fold this statement of work and these requirements into the RFP proposal for
The
Johnson
server
Controls.
runs in your data center.
Yes, it does.
But the DOA, the one who proposed it,
Doesn't matter.
clarifying, seems like the DOA is the one who proposed it. So DOA, didn't perhaps ask. Is
It comes to the
Siegel
question,
Express?
and I'm now
Because
resolving
they
it
would
by
know.
changing the name of the department. Who is in charge of physical security? Answer: facilities. It's the janitor, the custodian, that literally has been in charge of physical security for this entire city. And I'm saying that's a problem. And it should be on IT because the janitor does not know what they don't know.
But look,
I don't want to be mean. That,
there's something wrong here because
oh yeah, there's a lot wrong.
this irks me because things are going around the Technology Commission. We were involved in the camera project.
Yep.
The camera project doesn't sit in the data center. There's a back end, but we were involved in that project. So why is door security, which has a back end that runs in our data center that should hook into AD?
The original
that should
project
hook-
was being managed by me and was brought forward to the Technology Commission, but then it was stopped and then reallocated and then brought to the Department of Administration.
Well, reallocated doesn't mean completely cut out from any
Now, where I was
advisement,
concerned at the
oversight,
time
and
is
involvement.
the door access control for the areas that I had data. I wanted to know what were the requirements for my data center and for the IDF, so which I had none. Like, you could have done this whole thing with just a PC running
Sure.
Secure, and then they if you go look in the closet, they literally have the door access control system controller. It's just a big box on the wall with boards
Yep.
inside of it. And the only thing that's touching it right now is their controllers are connected to our network, but everything else is hardwired to the controllers. So if there's a badge out by the front door over there, that wiring goes, the Cat5 cabling goes all the way over to the controller, and the controller then turns around and talks over to the virtual machine Secure, and Secure could be put on a PC, which is where it was over at the Journal Sentinel, as easy as it can be on a virtual machine in a server environment. So what they were originally proposing was, you don't have to do anything. We'll have an administration machine, Secure, and we'll have some controllers, and it's not going to touch any servers. We're not going to put a server in your environment for it. And it's not going to be connected really to your network, which wasn't quite true. But it's just two controllers and a PC that's on the network. Security badge readers are not, so these are not IP-based
I get it.
readers.
Yeah, I get it, and I'm actually less concerned about the physical door devices than I am about the back end. From the Technology Commission perspective, and on our mission,
It goes back to what's the mission statement of
Well-
the Technology Commission. It is the Technology Commission,
maybe it has
on
to
in its
simply-
mission statement, have physical security as part of its main mission. The answer is no.
any
And that's why I think it
application,
should be extended.
any application, or any device that is using the city's network should be under the purview of it.
Yes.
If you're adding,
I would agree.
changing, deleting, that needs to be reviewed by you, and in some cases will need to come here. And some things you can decide. I just think here again is after
The
the fact.
proposal, that one, as I understood it, when it moved from here to the Director of Administration and was managed by this was not going to touch our network. That was the understanding. Now they installed it, found out there's 3 ports that are on our network, but this was supposed to be an off-network security.
Let's suppose that the only thing the system use the network for is to get access to the internet.
Doesn't matter.
I'm just asking.
Yeah.
I'm trying to where to draw
Could
the line,
flood the
right?
network.
Right.
Could
Yeah.
DDoS is, who knows? I think.
DDoS,
I
yeah.
think sure.
I agree with you.
Yeah, but the reality is the next thing you know, here they're bringing in a new HVA system, and then someone suddenly turns around and plugs the HVAC into the network.
It's like everything
Yeah.
nowadays. Everything
Everything
nowadays.
that's
is
always
an
the
internet
challenge.
connection.
But when I plug something in at my house, I just bought a new dishwasher. It's just got Wi-Fi. Who the hell needs a Wi-Fi dishwasher? But
I still
I went into my router, I labeled it, I made sure, I did all the things that
Yeah, I don't.
someone would do, right? And it's that's the way of the world. If this commission was responsible for cable TV at one point, coax running through the city and the cable contract, for God's sake, something that is going to go on the network, that should have tripped someone up and said, "Oh, you need
And
access
this is
to our
exactly
internet?"
the reason why I'm taking the project back, and I'm saying, no, what you're doing right now is not what was agreed to. You've introduced security problems in the midst of this. I'm now taking this back, and this is now going to be rediscussed and reevaluated. And if we want to reevaluate this in more detail at the Technology Commission, after my conversation on the 7th with these people, we could definitely turn around and bring it back to the Technology Commission. I'm more than willing to do that.
But I also think there's something awry here with, and I know these are vastly different projects and systems, but you had this plan failure for lack of exhaustive testing, whether it be the applications couldn't get out through VPN or the switches were incompatible with the firewalls. You have the whole Windows debacle that I'm sure you're probably going to touch on in a bit.
Are we talking about CrowdStrike?
Yes.
We're an impacted. We don't use CrowdStrike.
No. Oh, sorry. The
Failed implementation.
failed implementation. Yeah.
Oh.
Yes. So we've had that. Now we have this door issue. And we're always coming after these things after the fact. And I'm not putting this on your shoulders directly, but somewhere there has to be better acceptance testing. In some cases, these were decisions that moved around. But in the end, before we cut the final check to these vendors, knowing that our door can't stay open at the right times
Without Velcro.
without Velcro, I mean, we're the Department of Velcro Management. It's not cost effective to find these problems late. It's sometimes very cumbersome to deal with these vendors after the fact, and sometimes we get stuck and can't fix things. It's sort of just a ongoing, recurrent, let's say not ongoing, but a recurrent theme that there are things that go wrong, and I know
will make a
things
statement
go
that's
wrong,
very
but
brash, very harsh. We start getting into serious trouble as a city. Being here now for almost 10 years, I've now seen 3 directors of administration. every time the director of administration, be it Mark Liberta, Peggy Stino, Kelly Hirsch, that role has way too many things to do on a daily basis. There is no time to play project manager or oversee a project that is being run by a project manager. If any project comes to the table where the director of administration is the main person responsible for that project, it should immediately be.
Agree. That's the scope of that job is way too broad to be.
Mark
doing
Liberta
short
did it
management.
with all the problems that we had with the station alerting system. When he decided to turn around and put that under his belt, issues with physical security, he was the person that was in charge of the whole updating of City Hall for it and folded physical security into it. Then Peggy Stino, 3 projects that I had with video surveillance, the WAN, and the physical security. That was in Peggy Stino's project where she was running it. She leaves, and it was Mayor Olson who then handed over to the IT department. So that was being run by the director of administration. And then now in comes Johnson Controls on this major project. They have a project manager who gives the status reports and such over to the director of administration. This is where we consistently go off course
So,
as a city.
Well,
Consistently.
as a council, why is the council not asking for the technology commission for IT?
They should. When
Where's
something comes
where's
up for
the
a
sign off
vote,
on this project from
when
Jim?
something comes up for a vote, and we have Alderman Pecorelli,
Last year's
Michelle
debacle with
Eichmann, who was also here as well. Courtney Day, who used to run health department, knows the procedure as well. When stuff comes up for a vote and evaluation that has a technology, there should be a question of has the technology commission turned around and reviewed this and approved it?
the assessment
And without a
project
motion to
last year.
recommend, it should be tabled.
Another one went around, never touched the technology commission. New technology for the assessors system. Okay. Well, you came to us after the fact, and we refused to vote on or make a motion because it had already passed the commission as council. Sorry,
Well, and then
just
as
a
you-
recurring
and then-
theme.
And then if you think about the projects that are being managed by, or were managed by the administration, these take considerable amounts of time. If you then say, okay, that has a technology component to it, therefore somebody in IT is going to manage it, where are those resources coming from? Jim doesn't have time to manage 3 extra projects that he wasn't doing before. And as more and more devices are purchased that all connect to the internet, touch the network. If you want to say anything that touches
Sure.
the network has an IT component, therefore IT has to be involved. That just pushes more stuff into the realm of the technology and security department, right? And so you're going to need more. You're going to need a project management resource in
That's
IT.
right.
If you're going to change this,
You can't afford it.
You're going to have somebody to do that, and you're really taking the work away from other people. But how do you account for that? You're going to need another resource. You're going to need another body to
And those
manage
people,
projects that touch networks.
they don't have enough time, and it's also not their expertise.
Correct.
So, yes, I agree with you. You have to have the right resources. It can't fall on Jim because he's already way overburdened. And so, guess what's going to happen though when the new device causes the network to go down or causes some other kerfuffle? Oh, Jim, how'd this happen? Come to the city council and explain it all. And
We don't even have besides Jim, we don't have a project manager, right?
We don't even have a project management department. In
No,
most organizations, you have a PMO.
Sure, but
Yeah.
we don't
You
even
also
have,
have a procurement
we don't
We'll
even
take
have a-
one
yeah,
first.
We'll take one.
you don't need an office.
We don't
for
even
that.
have a PM, right?
Honestly, no one here. I'm the only one that actually follows a project management methodology. Out of all the proposals that we're turning around and given to the Common Council, been doing it for 10 years. Every single time I turn around and propose something for funding, I always write a business report, which saves me time because when I'm turning around and needing to write the common council action sheet, I go right back to my business case and start copying and pasting everything that I've already rewritten
But somebody,
off of it.
but you need.
We don't even have a structured way of turning around and requesting new expenditure.
So, when you have a business analyst, for example, you need that's working on IT stuff. You need a business analyst that understands technology, understands software, for example, right? Because if you don't have that, then the business analyst goes over to the client department and says, "Okay, let's talk about your needs." And all they do
They'll
is
get walked over.
they all just they're scribes. They just
Yeah.
write down whatever you
Right.
say. They aren't able to say, well, that's going to cost a lot of money for a little benefit, and something's going to cost less. They aren't able to advise them. So to speak. So what I'm saying is that we really need a person in the IT department who has IT skills, analytical skills that can take these projects on and help these departments with the technology, at least the technology aspect of it. Because they just don't have the skills. You
Right.
can't rely on.
Right.
Nothing wrong with Kelly Hirsch, but you can't rely on Kelly Hirsch
Right.
to run a project that has a serious technology aspect of it. So it's not her skill set.
She doesn't know the
It's
detailed
not skill set.
standards of our network or our AD or yeah, I mean all that stuff. It's not supposed to be in her bailiwick.
If we're going to make the expand the scope, anything that touches the network, let's just say that we're going to need a body to go along with that expanded goal.
It's not going to happen because they're already cutting money out of the budget. And I'd like to say, yes, we could request another staff, another headcount for another full-time employee, but we're in a hiring freeze right now. And because we have, and for this, 25 years now, and it's going to get worse instead of better, unfortunately, because every municipality is in the exact same boat, where there are needs for additional staff, but there is no OpEx right now available for additional headcount.
Can a headcount be reduced?
For 2026, they have eliminated all additional staffing.
But you can still plan to modernize the overall org chart.
You can plan and say
You can plan,
we need a
but-
resource.
Well,
And
I
it's
try
saying,
to
like,
I try to free up. I mean, I've done project management enough. I could leave here and become a project manager if I really wanted to. I do that role and I fulfill that role. One of the many hats that I do wear is project manager on top of it, or working with the project manager on top of it. One of the main goals we're trying to do with going to the cloud on some of the stuff is stop spending so much time dealing with the actual computing systems and the day-to-day administration, and give that, where can I offshoot some of that to other areas. For example, the firewalls we used to turn around and support, maintain, and update and run the configuration on all the firewalls. That has now been outsourced, where I'm not a security expert in the firewall system, nor should I be. Those type of decisions is where I could start eliminating some of the burn responsibilities within IT, bring in additional experts who know what's best, and then that hopefully over time starts making availability of hours where we can spend more project management and working more with business.
Yeah, but the question is whether the depth that you give up, so working deep on something and getting down into the weeds, is just being consumed by the breadth of things that are coming faster and faster and out of the woods. And
I can tell you right now,
you're not really
the
gaining
pace of
any more
change,
time.
particularly since the pandemic, the pace of change from what it used to be to what it is right now, and the scale of the projects that we're dealing with right now is dwarfed. We're 10 times busier than we were 10 years ago.
Right.
So, one thing I've seen that might work is instead of having a hire, because I'm on the finance committee too, and I'll tell you,
You know the budget better than
yeah,
anybody.
it's not tricky. But one option may be to see if you can contract that, so you're not bringing in like a full time, you're bringing in part. The second thing I would say that's consistent across a lot of these things too is, I've found that allowing, when you sign a contract with somebody going to implement or whatever, they want to do the PM role, right? They want to kind of run their, you can't have that. Because the problem is you need the PM to be watching what's actually going on and giving you exactly what's going on. If you allow that PM, the PM is pretty much everything gets scrubbed, the way to think about it. Whether they're really doing that on purpose or not, but you don't have really that call it the third party watching, right? And if you had an employee that was in here, right, you'd want them being part of that. So one option would be is to pull that out of contracts and you free up you should get some freed up dollars there because that's embedded in those, and use that to fund call it a central PM, and then that person is kind of across those projects, and you have that person now that you're working with, and they get consistency across all that, and you get a better visibility into it. It takes a little bit of time to build that up, but and again, if you only need 20 hours of the person or whatever, you only need 20 hours of the person. So you're not bringing on a full-time person right away. As that ramps up and you get operating and you get to some pace and you go, you know what, I got enough here that I'm going to run for a long time. Then you get another decision.
We also have to stop with these massive project initiatives that have so many sub-projects into it. We're getting we really are getting our asses by taking on those massive projects that have too many components with it.
And
they need to be split out in order to be more effectively managed.
Well, and then that then plays into, you got to be realistic on resourcing, right? Like, I can't stack 15 projects on that all need full time. Let's say full time on the same people. Like, somebody can't be full time 4 times over, right? It's not going to work. And you can sit there and stack projects and go, well, I'm going to get a little bit here done, a little bit here done. And all it does is just stretch out the timelines and everything, and usually it ends up costing you more money at some point because something goes wrong.
Do we really want, I'm trying to think if we really are talking about a project manager or are we talking about something else? Because each of these operating departments, they have some project going on. They should be able to manage that project themselves. But what we were saying was that there's an IT component. If that thing touches the network, then there's an IT component. We need to have somebody on that
technical
team.
analyst
Yeah,
or something like that.
it's not. We don't want to manage their projects for them. That's taking on a lot. We want a technology expert
Architect.
that is involved in the project, a member of the team who can say, okay, I got to make sure I cover these things, otherwise we're going to have these other problems that you're not going to be happy with, right? So I don't think we want to take over people's projects. We want them to have the expertise in their team to say that touches the network. I gotta look and see what's going on.
And at the fire department and the police department, we do some of that already.
Yeah.
Through Captain Ireland over at the police department and Assistant Chief Yankee, that anything that is got a technology component to it, those two are involved with it, and they are kind of like as the liaison between us and IT. They also have a good amount of responsibility of helping us with the testing, the implementation, and the integration, and start explaining a little bit about what it actually is what they're trying to implement. And that was one reason why the Motorola project went off very, very well, is because we did have Jason Ireland.
Well, and then our IT department, if we had an analyst that wasn't a contractor, we might have a snowball's chance in hell of keeping the IT department running should something happen to Jim unexpected.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's a huge, I'm scared of that.
There's a risk, big risk.
I'm scared of that.
That's right.
We always seem to get to this.
Yeah. It's always about you, isn't it?
Now we'll go to the whole funding circle.
We need the continuity of knowledge. We need to retain that knowledge in another brain. So if something happens, got a little chance that hey, there's 50% of what's in Jim's brain is in somebody else's brain. Well, that's half the operation.
And I do have a very good staff. That we have come light years staff.
I thought you only had like one staff.
I have Nathan and I have Ryan.
You have 2 staff.
I have 2 staff.
I'm a little
And then
behind.
the GIS department reports to me, but they're officially consultants.
Okay, so these other projects these 3 other projects that were run by the former director of administration, I don't see that you would have had time to intervene or be part of those projects, but.
Actually,
would
the
your-
Peggy Steno projects,
Yeah.
all 3 of the big, huge projects,
Yeah.
I mean, that came to IT, and
Yeah.
the first thing I had to do was to put standard project methodology around it and start defining the requirements, putting a statement of work together, scope together,
Yes.
and then managing them as an official project of
That's more than,
significant caliber.
that's project management, that's not
Right.
the IT part of it. But my point is that when it was going on, well, it was still under their umbrella, while they were still managing the project, albeit badly. You didn't have any bandwidth to get involved with those 3 projects, I bet.
I mean, I was involved as a team member
Oh, okay,
for it,
okay.
but that it was also Peggy Steno, where she wanted absolutely positively everything under her thumb.
Yeah.
She wanted to be the core decision maker on all of this.
Should people in the city who manage projects in the operating departments and stuff be required to take some project management training stuff so they understand statements of work and writing requirements and checking things off and just the basics?
I would love it, but I don't know how you would ever force anything like that.
I mean, it's just like continuing ed, right? You just go take this course.
But good project management is also derived not only from book knowledge, it's derived a lot from experience.
Right, but something's better than nothing,
True.
right? I mean, you said you had to bring her back to the basics, so you never taught the basics. So, all right.
I don't know. I don't know, but I don't know if there's a point in having a technology commission anymore. If these things continue to just float out there and come back. I mean, we're here to advise the city on best practices, and certainly we would have flagged a number of issues. Maybe we're not going to catch everything, of course not. But
And there will always be projects
And
that will fail.
there will. But it just seems to be, like you said, projects are bigger, they're coming faster, and we're having more failures, and you're reporting things that were like, oh, we didn't know about that. Know about that one.
Well, that's only because when it becomes a disaster, then Jim has to fix it.
Of course. Or they dump it back and say, oh, this is
Right.
too hard, it's too technical, it's got something to do
Well,
with
there's
plugging in the wall.
Jim, you know this. There's the 110-100 rule, right? You're writing software, you have a problem, you find it yourself when you're writing the code, you fix it, it costs you $1. If it goes to testing and you find it costs you $10, if it gets out into production, it costs you $100. Right?
Exactly.
I mean, we're just talking about the things that go out into production in the world and they cost $100 to fix. That's 100 times what it would cost to fix otherwise. And as you get more and more and more stuff, you're going to have more and more occurrences of those higher price things because we're human and they make it through. So, we see 1 or 2 failures, at least, you guys talk about them here or there, and they seem like really catastrophic. But what we don't talk about is all the other stuff that did go well, all the other opportunities for failure that didn't get out into production. So the more volume you get, the more of these you're going to hit. And so is it a crisis or is it just another day? Is it a
Well, I was thinking about that too, and the fact that we're probably at a pace or a cycle. Cycle's the right word. Of a lot of change, right? I mean, you're talking about how much stuff is now we're doing with cloud. We're trying, like we didn't have a ring a few years ago. I mean, there's a lot of things that have been put in, and it's a lot more complex. And when things get a lot more complex, then you need more testing and all these other things, and there's more opportunity for things to go wrong. So I was wondering that as well as, especially some of these, like the early stuff we had with 365, right? If you go back, they probably had other things that kind of led us to that situation. And we had, I think, some bad information, right, out of to do there too.
We had some stuff that was absolutely, completely, and totally wrong.
Yeah.
So they were
So,
trying to resolve and implement a project, and they clearly did not know what they were talking about.
yeah. And so, and that in the grand scheme of all of our move of cloud stuff, that was right at the front end, right? So if you look at it, if we would go 5 years in the future and look back, what does that really look, what would it look like? I mean, we could have continual problems that we've been dealing with, right? And that's one way we got to go address that. But it also could be, okay, we actually we had issues early on, which is kind of, I think we're early on, and then that's actually like helped us kind of reset, and then we kind of move forward. So I kind of look at it and go, we do have to think through what do we need to be doing to not continue to have these types of things come up. But I also look at it as I think it is some of the what we're doing right now and the complexity that's driving it as well.
Well, and if we're going to have a lot of $100 failures, a lot of failures that come up in production, then it's more cost effective to put the resource in to do the upfront stuff to avoid that high cost. And so the million-dollar question is are we to the point that these seemingly big things that come out in production could have been avoided had we just spent some fraction of the money upfront with better testing information, smarter people involved?
I think so. I think so.
I don't know.
I mean, if you put the right structure in place, the right people in place, person in place,
Yeah.
hopefully you would have caught some of these earlier than after a disaster, after things are.
Well, and so then if you spend the money for a person, that technical analyst that's invariably needs to be involved with more projects because everything touches the network, we perhaps save money because we aren't spending the big dollars because of failures that hit production that person boards off. And then we've got another resource that's providing some knowledge and keep.
And I think I don't. It's going to be tough to try to limit the speed and scope of projects that come into this organization. And we can say, well, we're just in a high delta phase. Everything's changed. No, but they're going to be putting AI in the police cars and on the street cameras, and everybody's photo is going to be sent off to the cloud. Who knows what things will happen in the future? And change isn't going to be slowing. And telling the departments, well, you can't have that until 2029. Then they will just go around us, or us meaning IT, and you're left with what you're left with. So,
but you also have to be realistic. So where I'm going with it is, if not having this analyst, right, puts us in a position where you can't have it until 29, well, then that's what it is. Like, you can't.
Well, that won't work.
I understand that, but the problem is, it'd be like trying to build a road, right? If you go, well, we want it to be a 4-lane divided highway, but we're only going to spend the money for a 2-lane gravel road, but I want the 4-lane divided highway. You can't get there. Like, and technology a lot of time is treated as, well, we should be able to do this real cheaply, right? And that's not always the case. And it's and so much. Let me look at it now. It's all physical security sitting on technology, more technology than a key, right? So the problem is as you continue, things continue to foundationally rely on the technology, and that footprint gets bigger. Something's got to change, because you can't keep taking, as that footprint gets bigger and bigger and more relies on it, like you're talking about AI and everything. You can't sit there and go, well, the same thing we were doing before is going to continue to work. Like, it's just.
I agree. But also the departments themselves are not seeing the IT crush, I think.
And they think it's infinite.
Right.
And they think it's infinite.
It's just a silo problem.
Jim's got it handled.
Just call Jim.
This guy, records request that I have.
And that
physical
has to be
thing.
baked into the cost of the project. So
Correct.
if finance wants to get some new GIGAW, great, but we have to have a technical analyst evaluate that, and that has to be part of the project.
So that's a good question. So when your time or someone else's time is on one of these projects, do you charge that project?
Oh, his budget. There's no chargeback.
That's why it's
We-
a
There's
do-
no
we-
cap,
we do not
so you don't have any
cost-based
labor going to
accounting.
CapEx?
We do not do any cost-based accounting, so
That's where, so some businesses would then charge that analyst to all the projects. As CapEx.
I had this exact same thing at the city of Sheboygan. I filled in as the IT director temporarily. I didn't want to go to Sheboygan. I lived in Franklin, right? But I filled in there temporarily, and they had this exact same problem. They had 25 operating departments, and they had 4 IT people. Nobody was happy, right? Nobody was happy because nobody could get the IT time they needed. And one of those IT people, by the way, was writing a custom payroll system forever. Like her entire career there, she was the payroll person.
My
'Cause they had this
God.
union and this other union and this other union. They were all these quirky rules, right? So there was really only 3 IT people, and nobody was happy. And I suggested that perhaps that the cost of those IT people should be borne by the individual departments who wanted to economize in some way, right? Well, the council just couldn't grasp that. But nonetheless, the point was is that if you do it one way, you got a certain set of problems. Do it the other way, you got a different set of problems.
Yeah.
Either way, you got a set of problems.
Correct.
So don't spend too much money to go from A to B because you're just gonna switch the set of problems you have. But I would say that I wonder if there's an opportunity somewhere in the vast staffing we have going on to take away some less essential jobs, create funding for this more essential job. As this base expands, as you said, there's
you
things
want
gonna
me to
be-
go there? Or do you want to go?
Well, I know it's a hard question to ask, but you know what? My wife used to still works for the city of Greenfield. She used to work in the assessor's department. In the assessor's department, her and the assessor. And she didn't have a lot to do. And it just grinded on her every day. It's like, well, why can't I be doing this? And the assessor's like, no, I don't want you doing that. It's like, well, what am I going to do? Just go read a book, do whatever you want, but don't, he literally did not want her to do work, right? But he wouldn't admit that allocation wasn't needed. He didn't want her going and doing work for another department, like helping out, like shared resources kind of thing, because then he'd have to admit that he didn't need that resource. He didn't want to give it up, right? And I just wonder, is this unusual? Now, eventually he left, retired, and she's now working on the deputy clerk, right? And busy all day long. She's happy with that. But I wonder how many department heads hang on to a fraction of a resource that they really don't need or whatever because, well, if they give it up, they'll never get it back.
I appreciate the question, but it's really outside our purview
Oh,
in any way. I mean,
speaking
that's
to
it.
the right- on the
Yeah,
right side of the mouth.
I would.
Who's gonna
They
come
hold
up
the
with
purse
allocation?
strings. They should be asking the department heads
Well,
those
it's
questions.
a fair question.
Yeah, and the mayor.
Well,
Whatever.
so,
Hope for the opportunity.
so if you listen to the last finance meeting, the last one, there is a lot to ask there, so.
Yeah.
I don't think we're real popular.
But that resource will be helping each of the operating departments with their IT component of their various projects. So it's going to be a shared resource.
Oh,
So
of course.
who can pitch in a half a person here, a half a person there, share a resource there, share an administrative clerical resource, so that there's, sharing resources, a lot of times in the clerk's office, for example, at a certain time of year, they're not busy. And they could help out with other departments who have people that do a lot in the summertime. Who are those people? The park and rec people, right? A lot of summertime stuff, but then they're not busy in the winter. So there's opportunity for low leveling on some of those other less skilled project positions that maybe some money could be up with.
You're on
Okay.
dangerous territory.
Yeah, you're walking all over.
We have,
right?
we have finance next week, so I'll find out where we came,
Government.
where we've settled on some of the stuff.
I think Jim's got the good starting point.
Yes.
Change the name of the organization, rewrite the charter.
And then ask for a resource.
That'd be a start.
Got to ask for resources.
Start with calling it security
Mm-hmm.
because that's going to be a growing need in the future in IT. I can't I'm telling my nephew, it's like, don't go into this area of IT, don't go into this area, that's a dead end. Eventually that won't be out there anymore for it, but security, that's a career for a lifetime.
That was the advice I gave my nephew 10 years ago, and he's still doing it.
All right, where are we at on the agenda?
I'm still talking on the notes.
I figured you.
Item, boy, this one's going to be off on another conversation here too. Sorry, folks. Invoice impersonation attack. We're viewing this right now as a police department issue instead of a security incident issue, because it is not touching literally any security, any system that is internal to the City of Franklin IT department. So the City of Franklin Police Department and IT have been involved in numerous incidents where vendors or agencies involved in construction projects have received rogue invoices from a person impersonating Franklin Planning Department. In certain instances, the impersonation attempt is highly specific and pertains to an ongoing project the Planning Department is currently engaged in. All rogue invoices are being sent from the USA.com email server and include the City of Franklin logo and City Hall addresses. They're also impersonating Regulo as director with his contact information as well. The cyber group requests contact in order to the cyber attack requests contact in order to execute the wire transfer and does not provide any banking or account or transfer information in the email. The Franklin Police Department has escalated the matter over to the Department of Justice and the FBI. However, neither agency has responded to the request. I believe this is just canonical. I believe this is affecting more than just us.
Yeah, City of
This is
Milwaukee
a
had this. Yeah.
regional issue.
I get them at home.
Yeah. The PD is unable to issue a subpoena to USA.com and is believed that the impersonation attack is being perpetrated from outside of the country and it lacks jurisdiction. Franklin may need to consider implementing a pull process for invoice submission, which would eliminate all emailed invoices from any workflow. And in an alternative scenario, the invoices may also require digital signatures to verify the reputation. Now, we don't issue that many invoices. Majority of them are mailed to people. We don't send that many invoices out to people via an email message. That is still considered not a very good practice to do it.
Let me ask, these are invoices coming to Franklin.
Mhm.
No, they have
No,
our
that was my
logo and
question.
we're billing contractors? Why would we bill
For
contractors?
example, Bear Development. Bear Development, big contractor, builds subdivisions, build
Yeah.
roads.
They're getting
Yeah.
attacked.
Bear is getting an invoice from email, and when you look at that email, it's coming from U.S.
Oh,
Planning Department, City of Franklin at USA.com. So they're getting an invoice, false invoice, from a hacker using USA.com,
Okay.
impersonating the City of Franklin IT department.
I see.
And they would
Planning
get-
Department.
they would normally get invoices for like road improvements and
And
inspections and all that.
correct, and
Okay.
they would, and from
Got it.
planning department, we give them invoices and such
Got it.
for items of work that they've done as
Okay.
part of this.
Okay, but they're smart enough
project.
to know at USA.com is not Franklin. It's not a
Well, that's the
USA.
first thing to
Is
tell
that
them.
our problem?
It should come from franklinwi.gov,
I mean,
and if you're getting an invoice from someone else other than
Yes.
franklinwi.gov, it didn't come from us.
correct.
But eventually, this is where we come from liability. Eventually, someone who's not paying attention is going to contact the hacker, pay the invoice, and then hold us liable for them receiving this rogue invoice.
I can't.
How
No.
can they even do
I don't
that?
They may try.
No.
No.
They
Yeah,
may
they
try.
can.
We should ask legal about that because
Right.
at USA.com, anybody with a medium amount
Because
of
how would they
intelligence
even know
knows
what
it's
to-
not Franklin.
Do they have inside information? Like,
Yeah, what
Do they
are the items they
know-
put on the bill?
do they know a project and they're billing to the
You can
next
view
PO?
all of the projects online
Yeah,
on our
yeah.
City of Franklin
That's like
website
that's
to
why the,
find out what they're working on.
government agencies they go after because all that stuff's public. Like
Yeah, that makes
like
sense.
a private company that you wouldn't be able to.
But still, USA.com, come on. Not even our domain.
Well, they
so
can't.
they can look at the Common Council action packet,
Yes.
which is publicly available
Correct.
if you want to read all 300, 400 pages of it. And you can get very, very detailed information on any project. That is just absolute heaven for a hacker. So the hacker knows the person's name of the department, their email address, the phone number, can scoop out the city
How
logo.
many invoices
They can
are issued?
We've had about 6 instances of this.
How many invoices are issued in total?
That we issue.
Yeah.
Oh, we issue hundreds of invoices.
100
A month?
of these kind.
From the
Large.
planning department. I mean, if you go to other departments, they issue far, far, far more than that.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
water bills in the thousands, tax bills in the thousands.
Yeah.
Stuff from the planning department. The question is, which I brought to the director of finance, should we change our process that when we issue an invoice electronically to a person, they have to go to some site, Invoice Cloud or whatever have you, and they have to pull it from the website. We give them a link, they have to pull it from Invoice Cloud, and then they now know it's reputable versus us just generically sending them an invoice.
I don't.
Yeah, but the
I
link.
She doesn't want to.
They'll just mimic that.
Correct.
They'll just copy that. It's
That's
just
correct.
it's a forever battle, right?
Right.
I don't know why we should. I'm not an attorney, but I think we should consult with some legal counsel before we spend your valuable time on an invoice that goes to a third party who can't tell that USA.com is not from us.
The biggest, I was
You
going
have
to
to
say,
waste your time on it.
the biggest thing is to let who we work with, so
Mhm.
Meredith, know to watch for this stuff. So anytime we're working with people, hey, there's people that spoof, this is what they do. That's probably, in all of this, is going to probably be the most effective because then they're going to watch for that.
And that's what we've been doing.
Yeah, because
Right.
you can't stop somebody from copying all this stuff and sending something
They
that's
make lookalike websites.
Right.
And AI is going to get worse.
Yep,
Right.
the person who's not paying attention is going to fall victim to it, but they have to be vigilant too.
And the other way to add to it would be they have to actually call to validate, right?
Yeah.
So, because if they're the initiator of the call, they don't go off the email, right? They know how to contact the city outside of that, right? Then you can call and validate that an invoice is actually correct. So you could add that step in there too if you're really concerned. And then, because you're not going to be able to stop everybody just random stuff off.
Right. And that's pretty much the same tack of what we've been taking at this point. It continues, and it's like I said, 6 to 7 invoices. It's not a huge amount. It's not like they're sending them to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, and you got a major issue. But it hasn't stopped either. We'll normally see like 2 of them go out, and then they stop doing it for a while, and then they go ahead and try again.
And in the case of City of Milwaukee, it was first, and they had wired out hundreds of thousands of dollars that they luckily were able to stop. It was all over the news. But one of the vendors, construction vendors, to the city for like constructing city halls, improvements or whatever, was sending an invoice, or it looked like it was from them. So they sent off the money, and then someone saw that and made a call. No, that's not our invoice. And then they quickly got the money back, luckily.
But that goes back to pick up the phone and
Exactly, yeah.
Security
So
awareness.
it could happen in the reverse. And
Right.
our department heads should also be aware that when they get invoices in, there's invoice spoofing.
You could make a web page on the city of Franklin website that has a list of all the checks in the room, public knowledge anyway, and they can go check it themselves. It doesn't even have to be a link to it. You can have a
No.
thing link to it, right? I mean, like
Yeah.
not a you navigate to it, but here's a URL you go to check on the invoices we issue to you. I'm not suggesting you do this. I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
but wouldn't that increase the spoofability? Because now it
Yes.
might have the exact dollar amount, and they just changed the payment routing. Here,
At least
remit to
information
this.
gives the
But it would
better.
be they'd have to do it after it was already issued, right? So you send them the invoice, and then you make a record up there so they can check it. They'd have to they'd have to set a second one and go, oh, whoops, we gave you the wrong. I mean, they'd have to do something that would be like very.
There's got to be a blockchain solution.
Yeah.
I mean,
Now, I wish
swear, there's gotta be something.
the FBI would actually get very serious on Gmail. All of this is coming either from Gmail or USA.com.
Yeah.
Sure.
90% of our spoofing attacks are always coming from Gmail. And it's like Gmail, come on. You really have to get serious about proving the identity before you just give everyone and their horse a free email account. Because now they're just using scripts to create
They're free-
millions
they're
of
free
fake
email
email
accounts.
accounts and burn them.
There are free email accounts, and the first part of it is XYZ 123, and there's
Mhm.
nonsense at
Yeah.
gmail.com, right? It's
Right.
like 20, 30 digits long nonsense at gmail.com. It's like, really? To your point. Yeah. But you know, people reading those can right away go, oh, look, it's from a Gmail address. It says it's from Microsoft, but it's a Gmail address. Obviously, it's garbage.
I think at this point it's communication, like the Alderman said, it's communication to vendors and it's communication to internal people, not to get spoofed. They get an invoice, and you know it's not a technology problem because we didn't have anything to do with these.
Right. It's not our
Fake.
email server that's sending it.
So the solution may be a technology solution that could help out.
What about the contracts when they sign them? Can those be updated? Add, just from a liability standpoint, like, don't only double check or some kind of, don't send them to random, and don't wire money.
Emails will
randomly.
come from this email address.
Right.
Minimum, check that, right?
Yeah.
But
Emails.
again, we should not be emailing
Okay.
invoices.
Then we should say invoices will be mailed.
That's not great
emailed,
practice.
right?
Mm-hmm.
To your point, we can say something.
Right.
How I get my water bill.
Next item, eliminating HBS as a core vendor due to ongoing cost cutting due to the significant citywide budget concerns. The HBS CollabGuard contract for free video surveillance systems has been terminated. This was an annual cost of $18,000 for regularly scheduled maintenance and problem solving. The IT department will be undertaking full responsibility for the system in spite of the learning curve and will be performing all upgrades and patches. It's possible that the city may entertain moving to a different application platform in the future, possibly using the native access control software that is also used with the access. Now, director's notes and IT operation. Here's something good. The Motorola Body and Squad Camera Project. The BPD implemented a new cloud-based Motorola camera system on Monday, October 20th. The goal of completely decommissioning the on-premise WatchGuard system within 90 to 120 days. A total of 32 body cameras are currently in the process of deployment, now done as of today, and will be synchronized to the cloud to the transfer stations that serve both as a power charging and communication hub. Integration packages have been implemented for vehicles that possess the older X400 cameras, while the X500 cameras have been installed within the new vehicle. Those talk directly to the cloud without integration. Rather than retaining the data on-premise, all squad cameras transfer the video directly to the Motorola cloud while in station. The new cloud application is integrated with the Entra ID authentication and UA. The PD was the initial deployment of all the new Entra IDs, and all personnel were issued security.
Good. Excellent.
Motorola did a fantastic job of that project.
So there's a success one.
Yes.
Just to point that
Yeah.
out.
We ought to celebrate those successes.
Right.
You know.
Microsoft 365 onboarding and domain migration. The city of Franklin will officially execute a complete migration from the old non-routable Franklin NT domain cifranklinwi.us to the Active Directory 2025 domain muni.franklinwi.gov on October 31st, 2025, Halloween. All users and resources will be transferred. As part of the migration, all users will be required to authenticate into the Muni domain using a new user account that is identified in Microsoft Entra as requiring a YubiKey security key for 2FA authentication. On this date, every email will be transferred from the on-premise Exchange 2010 server over to the Microsoft Exchange Online Cloud. All shared accounts will remain in Franklin NT and will not be transferred to the new domain. The email naming convention will be adhered to for all user accounts. All users will be performing FIDO2 authentication to Active Directory domain and Microsoft 365 Cloud upon logging into the workstation. That means you put your YubiKey in, put in an 8-digit PIN, you touch it, you're signed in. No password. They're loving it. Took a while to actually get that working. This necessitates that the individual possess the YubiKey in order to access the resources and be aware of the 8 pin. The YubiKey is a certified FIPS security device and complies to all CGIS AAL3 authentication. Hopefully that goes well. Probably the biggest change the city has ever undergone.
So it's got a biometric thing on it?
No, it's just like complete the circuit. So it's just to prove that you're here. So if a person leaves their YubiKey into the machine and leaves, somehow someone like remote accesses your machine. Oh, look, there's the YubiKey, and tries to use it. It's kind of hard to hack into. You still have to hit the button in order to push it, which means someone physically has to be there in order to turn around and generate.
So you have to be there and you have to know something.
You have to be there, and you have to know something, and it has to be plugged in. Veeam Backup Cloud Onboarding. I made the decision on this because we needed to have it done right away. Veeam is being expanded to encompass on-premise backups, disk-to-disk and disk-to-tape currently, as well as cloud-to-cloud backups through Veeam Backup Cloud. Cost of a service provider, cost of using a service provider and Veeam licensing is prohibitive. What I meant by that is if I use my on-premise backup server, I have a Veeam on-premise backup server, and I have user licensing for it, I need to have 300 user licenses to back everything up. So I have to pay Veeam licensing, and I also have to have an object storage cloud provider. It could be Veeam, it could be Wasabi, AWS, choose whoever you want. But if you look at what the cost is for that provider, plus the cost of the user licenses, that becomes a little bit cost prohibitive for it. The Veeam Backup Cloud solution is approximately 40% less and does indeed offer seamless backup to the Microsoft Exchange and Entra ID tenant environments. The service is being subscribed to for a single year, and an alternate solution may be explored in 2026. Cloud backups are mandatory for M365 enrollment on Halloween, as all email is regarded as a government record. So we're not only backing up to the archiver for open records requests, searches, and such, for all e-investigation on it. I also need to have a backup. Microsoft, hello Max, Microsoft does not provide any backup for you. They claim they don't. They may do it behind, but if Entra somehow gets corrupted and you need to restore it, you need a backup. If Microsoft Exchange, the databases get corrupted, you need a backup. So when you go live, you need to use a backup. And doing it on the backup server is 40% more than running with Veeam Backup to the cloud. Hence, we're going with Veeam Backup to the cloud. Turn around and back up all the stuff that's going to be in Entra, even though it's a completely separate backup mechanism. Water Utility VMware upgrade. Water Utility is planning on upgrading its existing VMware 6.5 environment. Both the hardware and virtualization platforms are being upgraded and standardized to VMware 8. All SCADA virtual machines are being rebuilt as Windows 2025 virtual machines, and Rupert Milky will be installing the latest version of the SCADA monitoring software. The water utility servers will move into the Active Directory domain as these systems are being built. That is one of the few systems that if we do go completely cloud or hosted, that has to stay here because those monitor the actual water pumps and the water towers for it, hence the stuff that has to interface with the SCADA system.
So you said it's tying into Active Directory. Is that the rest of the city of Franklin Active Directory or Active Directory at the water? Or the
water department uses Active Directory. Computer objects for it. Right now, those are there's 3 virtual machines: Evo, H2O, Historian, and those are all Windows 2008 virtual machines for it, and those are in the Franklin NT. They aren't getting moved over from Franklin NT into Muni, and then they have to sign in with their Muni accounts until we rebuild the VMware environment, which will be hopefully within about a month.
So, and the SCADA control systems themselves are completely isolated from the rest of this.
Correct. This is just the monitoring.
That was my question.
I just wanted to confirm that.
Yes.
Thank you.
And that is not tied to IT in any way, shape, or form. We have no responsibility. So that's the end of the notes.
Okay, we have future agenda items. Talk ad nauseum about security and Johnson Controls project. I guess we'll get an update. Failure avoidance and mitigation. We also talked about that today. So
We also probably want to
the next meeting date is not a good date. So
we
we
should
normally
always move it.
move them to like the second week in December.
Now, I
First or
will be
second.
in Florida
Okay.
seeing my parents from the 13th to the 17th
In December.
in December. So we can do it anytime. It doesn't have to be on a Wednesday. But we'll combine our November and December meetings.
Yeah.
Because they always fall during the holiday. Unless one wants to come here just before Christmas.
You want to have Lisa send out a "Are you available?"
Yep. Or we can just choose one.
What are the dates in December for? December 3rd is a Wednesday, and December 10th is a Wednesday. Twice. Yeah, those are.
I think I can do it.
Unless you want to do it another day of the week.
I can do either.
I can do either day.
I think there's a
You have a
Okay. I'll have
Pick
Lisa
one.
to send out a message. Do you want 12 to 3 or 12 10?
Yep.
Sounds good.
All right. And I'm sure we'll have other future items. So, German. Any
I'll make-
motion.
I'll make the motion to.
Thank you. Second.
I'll second it.
We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.